I've got a real bone to pick with Steve at Value Vinyl. Stick around. Okay, so I'm sure you all know Steve over Value Vinyl. He's always over there talking about these records and stuff that we know are not records that we would normally buy. He's buying the stuff that we see in the Goodwills and in the thrift stores that we just flip right on by because we know that this is just old, useless stuff. And then he's over there spouting off this stuff about all vinyl lives matter and all this music needs to be preserved and kept and everything. And then he's in there and he's getting these records that we see in the stores and that we know that don't even pay attention to, just flip right by them because they're not really of any use. And he's over there talking about how great this release is and how great that release is. All vinyl lives matter. Clean this stuff up and let's listen to this stuff. And he's always touting this stuff. And see, then it gets into your mind. And then you go to the store and you're looking through the records and you start seeing these ones that he's talking about. I normally just flip right by them because this is just a waste of time. This is the junk we don't want to see. Oh, but Steve's saying how great these things are. And he's talking about, oh, that was a good release. And oh, I love that release. And he's telling the history of these releases and all this stuff. And then he's showing stuff that most of us, again, will flip right on by. It gets into your mind, see, it gets into your mind. So now you're out looking and you start seeing these things and you're slowing down and you're like, oh, look, I wonder what condition that's in. I don't care what condition that's in. This, keep flipping. But no.
He's getting into your mind.
And you're seeing it and you're like, wow, this is in pretty good condition. Steve showed this. He was talking about how great this is. Keep flipping. It's getting into your mind. See, it's bothering you. You're getting into it. You just keep going. Oh, wow. Here's one of those ones that he was talking about that is part of a certain type of collection. See, it's getting into your mind, and you got to stop. You got to keep going. And so you're out there looking, and you know what you're looking for, but you start seeing these things, and it's getting into your mind, and you start kind of slowing down and pondering these things. And see, that's bad. He's bad. He's getting into your mind, and it's causing you to start doing things that you normally wouldn't do that you know is bad. But all vinyl lives matter, remember? So he's getting into your mind, and he's making you think these things are worth slowing down for. And you know what happens? You know what happens when this happens? Here's what happens. You end up going to these stores, and you start looking at these things, and you're saying, that's one of the things he showed, but it's no good, right? Or is it? And you know what really happens? You end up coming home with one of them. Yeah, see what Steve did to me? See what he did? He showed this. And then I saw this and I said, hey, pretty good condition. It must be worth something. But here it is. You know what's worse than that? I got another one. 2 of them. Same guy. Look at that. 2 of them. Look at that. Good condition. I'm like, what's he doing to me? Why am I buying this? And what's worse? There were actually 3 of them. Look at that. 3 Alan Sherman albums. Now, I would never buy Alan Sherman, but Steve said they were great. He played a clip. These might be good. These might be worth having. Well, see, he got into my mind. So now I bought these albums because they were in good condition. And now I've got them in my collection. See what Steve did to me? See what Steve did to me? I guess it's all right, though. It's opening our minds to things that, again, probably would never have slowed down to even look at, not even ponder about. This is just the kind of stuff that we would fly right by, and it's like, who would listen to this? Well, Steve would listen to this, and then Steve would share the love of this, and then Steve would talk up the goodness of this. Things that he'd never heard of before, things that you would never slow down to get to look at or consider. But then when you see them, you're like, maybe. And so you pick them up and you bring them home and you show them a little love and you get ready to do a little cleaning. They're in good conditions, but still you can clean them up a little bit. And I've already played them and they're pretty enjoyable. See, Steve got into my mind. I didn't ask him to get in my mind. I didn't ask him to make me start liking stuff that I don't like. Steve, stop it. But in all seriousness, yes. So yesterday I went by a thrift store, sort of a thrift store, Habitat store, and they had, normally they have like 3 or 4 bins of maybe 100, 200, 300 albums. I went in there yesterday. It'd been a couple of months since I went in there, and they had those 3 bins, and they had a whole bookshelf full of them. And then they had boxes and stuff all over the floor, plastic bins all over the floor. There's no way. And it was all this kind of stuff for the most part. You're looking through it, and it's, I've been in there before, and I found some stuff that I almost bought, some maybe Grant, stuff like that, some 80s pop. Not really, mostly. They had a lot of gospel and stuff, Gaither Trio, things like that. Usually not a whole lot, but I thought, well, I was next door at the other record store, which I picked up something there I'll show in a second. And so I went over there because it, again, had been a couple months, and I'm like, oh my gosh, now they got more and more boxes of records. And I was flipping through them because it's just hard. They don't have them set up to where they're really easy to get to, so it was hard to go through them, hard to reach them in some cases. I started looking at the boxes on the floor, and I found the same stuff. You got operas and old show tune type stuff, and Percy Faith and his orchestra, and all of that stuff. And then I found a box that looked a little different. I started looking at the spines. They were in a little better order. It was a smaller box. It was kind of like everything was in decent order. And I started looking at the spines, and I said, well, first off, I saw this. They had these spines here that say monophonic. There was a bunch of them. So it kind of caught my eye because it was like a set, and there was a bunch of them. You could see right at the top, monophonic, bunch of them, and these three were in there. And I thought, Steve talked about this. He played, I believe he played a clip of that, and it sounded really humorous and funny. And again, so I found three of them, and I pulled out the vinyl. I was like, wow, really, really pretty clean for albums from the, when were these, 62? These things are recorded in the 60s, late 50s. So I grabbed these, and I kept going. And then I started seeing some familiar titles. So I have yet to run into one of those things like some of you guys out there. I'm just like, how do they get these things where they run into a store and somebody has just dumped off a bunch of 80s metal or something, or just dumped off, a bunch of really good stuff. I go to these thrift stores and I see a lot of the same type of stuff, things that I don't usually collect. But rarely do I find a lot of stuff that I'm real familiar with, or something even, worth, I don't want to say worth buying, but stuff that worth adding to my collection. But in this case, I saw this box and I started looking, and I started recognizing various, names that I recognized. And so I ended up pulling a lot of them, just pulling a lot of them out, and I didn't want to start looking at the vinyl immediately. So I pulled them all out and started a stack. And then when I was done with the entire box, I probably had maybe 15, maybe 20. And then I started pulling out all the vinyl and gauging what it looked like and everything, and putting things back that weren't any good, and keeping things. I ended up with 10 releases. You just saw 3 of them, and again, most of these are not, all of these are not, all but one of these are not things that I've ever really collected or have anything by, I think, for the most part, but they were well known, they were recognizable, and I thought, for the price, I'm going to go ahead and get them. Even if I end up not totally wanting to keep them in my collection, I have more things now I can give away. All right, so let's start off. I've never been much of a Jeff Beck fan, but this album seems to be pretty popular. So I looked at it. It's in good condition. Don't know a whole lot about it. It's got Jan Hammer on here. Everybody knows him from the 80s with his synthesizer stuff. He's a well-respected guitarist. He's obviously hugely popular. I said, okay, well, for the price, I'm going to get it. It was in great condition, so I grabbed it. They had another one. Let me show this one first. This one's a little more updated. This is, I think, 85. I've seen this one around too. I know nothing about it. Never really ever listened to Jeff Beck. But price was right. Quality was right, so I grabbed it. This one, a little bit older, 70s. Jeff Beck group. This one I've never seen before. Never heard of it. Know nothing about. Glanced at it, thought it looked cool, figured it was going to be 70s rock. I like 70s rock. Figured I'd expand my 70s rock idea, collection mindset. Brought it home. Just kind of glanced at it, put it in my pile, brought it home. Then I pulled it out last night, and I was just looking at it a little more closer, and it's kind of neat pictures. And I thought, I don't know, the hair is all wrong, but there's something about the facial structure that looks familiar. It kind of looks like Cozy Powell. I flipped it over, and it is. I really love his drumming. I love what he's done with like Whitesnake and Michael Schenker Band and Rainbow, and I have one of his solo albums and everything. So I thought, oh, cool, another album with him on it. I mean, he passed away quite a few years ago in I think a motorcycle accident. But anyway, so it was just neat to have this. I immediately pulled this out. It was clean. I want to clean these, but it was clean enough. I threw it on last night, front and back, listened to it, loved it. It was great. It's like 70s funk type music. They have a singer and stuff. These guys are going at it. It's not really necessarily something that I would have normally have bought in the past, but it was quite enjoyable. I listened to it front and back, and I thought, this is cool. So this is it. For this kind of price, I'm going to grab and expand my musical genre ideas. Now this I showed recently because I do have a copy of this. I bought the more recent release. This is an original press from the 80s, but when I pulled it out and looked at it, it was in really great condition. I figured I can give this to somebody. It's got some ring wear. It's kind of beat up, but it's the vinyl is great. The cover is rough, so I figured this could be some VCLT to somebody if they wanted to get a copy of this. The one that I bought a couple weeks ago, I listened to it, and again, I've had it on CD for years, but it just was like renewed life on vinyl. It just sounded really good. This I've seen around. I know it's sort of like a classic. I know nothing about it, but it's the release by Armageddon. The cover itself, kind of rough, but the vinyl inside was quite shiny. It has a couple little marks here and there, but I figure I'm going to give it a clean and everything. I plopped it on last night just to listen to the first few tracks, and very minor pops and cracks. It was in pretty good condition, so again, it was worth the cheap price they were selling it for. Roger Daltrey, never been a huge fan of his solo work, know nothing about it. I remember one video from when in the 80s and early MTV, he did that one about breaking out of prison or something. That was a really cool song. I think it was from a soundtrack of a movie. Know nothing about his stuff, but I figured, hey, Roger Daltrey is Roger Daltrey. Again, if I end up not liking it, I will, can always give it away. 1985. Back in those days, the Who was the Who, but they were a little out of my genre of desires, and so the solo stuff that these guys did was a little more commercial usually, and kind of went under the radar for us. It wasn't stuff that really caught our attention. Same with Pete Townsend. Now they did have, I want to say, like 3 more Pete Townsend albums, again later than this one. This is the only one I have on CD. This is the only one I've ever had. Let My Love Open the Door is still one of my favorite songs. I love it when they play it on the radio, and so I wanted to have this. It was, the vinyl was in good condition, and they had, like I said, 2 or 3 more of his albums later than this, stuff in the mid 80s. But again, I was picking up more familiar stuff, and that was what I got. Now, I thought I'd scored. They had Black Sabbath, Master of Disguise. It was in pretty rough shape, and then I pulled the vinyl out, and it was in horrible shape. It looked like somebody had been like sandpaper or scratching. I don't know. It wasn't worth it. And there was a Genesis, modern day 80s pop Genesis, Abbott Cab or something like that. I wanted that. I was like, yes, I want this. But again, it was in really rough condition, pretty scratched and stuff. So I wasn't gonna take a chance, even though it was like $1. So out of that box, there were a handful of things that I pulled out that I was hoping were going to be good that ended up just not being worth the chance of bringing it home. Now, what took me to that area of town was, this is the same store I go to occasionally, and every Tuesday they get new records. The guy brings them in, and so I just happened to be in that area of town on Tuesday. I usually am not. When he comes in around 5, I'm usually not able to be in that part of the town, but I did last night, and I saw on the list, because they always tell you the day before, hey, he's coming in with, and they just list a bunch of bands, and they listed AC/DC, they actually said Fly on the Wall, and I thought, well, I want that. They had this and a Rush, Grace Under Pressure, I think it was, and so I made a beeline in there at 5 o'clock, and he had already put the albums out actually about an hour earlier. This was still there, but the Rush was gone. So I looked at it. It's in really good condition. Here's what I think is neat. Inside it, I found AC/DC Shakes Coliseum's Foundation at Band's Tuesday Night Performance. Now this cover does have a guy's name on it. I don't know who the guy is, but the Coliseum is our local concert hall here, and this is a write-up about the concert that they had at our local concert hall. It doesn't have a date on it. I could probably go back and look up roughly what year it was. It might have been for this tour, I don't know, but they toured with AC/DC with Yngwie Malmsteen and Rising Force Tuesday at the Hampton Coliseum. So, probably wouldn't be too hard to go down. I didn't look it up yet, but to track down when did Yngwie go on tour with AC/DC, and then I could get an idea. This was probably in the 80s. I don't know. It's kind of faded, kind of a yellowish look, but that was kind of cool and unexpected to find in there. So I swung by there and grabbed this. And then when I got home yesterday, I had received this in the mail. Exciter Heavy Metal Maniac. It's on the black and silver splatter, so it's a reissue. Kind of an interesting story. I technically got this for free. I ordered something a couple days ago from Amazon. There was a slight mix-up with the auto rip and stuff like that, and actually it was at Saxon that I showed in my last video, the Saxon 3 CDs. There was an issue. They gave me a credit. The credit bought me this, so I basically got this for free. But so I'm excited about that. Plus the fact that this was, it was. I like the splatter idea, but it was. These tend to run over $20, and this one actually dropped down. That's why reason I bought it. It dropped down to like 16 on Amazon, and so I grabbed it with the credit. I think I ended up paying $1 and change, the difference. So anyway, I love Exciter. I want to get more of their vinyl. I really want Violence and Force. That one is still over $20. So, but for this one dropping, I thought this is great. I'll grab this. So I did. Anyway, that's all. That's all that happened yesterday, and don't let Steve get you in this crazy mindset. You start buying weird stuff. Anyway, I do want to thank you, Steve. You show stuff that again would never give the time of day to, and now I'm slowing down and looking at it, looking at the quality of it, looking at the what it just to see what kind of condition it's in, things like that. And it is opening my mind to check out things that I probably wouldn't have checked out before. And so I thank you for that. Thanks for broadening. It's nice watching everybody else's videos because, of course, not everybody has the same tastes. And the tastes, then you end up hearing about something you've never heard of, and they may play a sample or tell you something about it you didn't know. And again, I think that's what's cool about this whole community is everybody is broadening, our tastes, our broadening our knowledge of bands that we've never heard of. And it's really exciting to learn things like that. So anyway, thanks for everybody, everything that everybody does, and I will talk to you later. Rock on.